Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and it's Women's History Month, and I'm here today to talk to you about Witches of East End Season 1 and 2, the series review. So this was a show on Lifetime that I never heard about until a few years ago when I saw it on Amazon Prime. You can actually now watch it on Hulu, and both seasons are on DVD. However, season 2, for some bizarre reason, is very, very expensive, even though season 1 is relative cheap, and the show has been canceled for about 10 years or 11 years now. So this show came out in 2013 and is actually based off of a novel. And the really interesting thing about this show is I love witchcraft type shows. I love when they're very unique and different from each other. I hate when witch shows are very similar to one another, but I do love how much they differ from each other. Like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Charm, Just Add Magic, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and so many more are just so uniquely different from each other. And this show, thankfully, is different from that of the novel. Yes, they did alter pretty much a lot from the novels, because when you read the synopsis of the novels, it's extremely similar to Charm. Because in the novel, there are three witches, and the two daughters don't have their powers. They're immortal, but they don't have their powers. They're dormant, and their mother is a healer who reactivates their powers, and they use their powers from good. Charmed, as you know, is about three witches, sisters and everything. They are the charmed ones, and their powers were dormant by their parents and stuff. Well, their mother and their grandmother, because their mother died and everything. And they use their powers to fight evil and stuff like that. So it is very similar. Also, when you watch the show, these witches, their home is very similar looking to that of the Charmed home, the manor and everything. So there are things that does feel a bit like a rip off of the Charm show and everything. So Melissa Dela Cruz is the one who wrote the novels in 2011. And so basically in the novel, that differs from that of the show is that in the novel, like I said, it's about three witches, two daughters, and a mother. The mother is a healer and very powerful. The daughters are immortal and they don't have their powers, and the mom has to reactivate their powers and stuff. In the show, there's a character named Dash, but his name is different from that of the books. I forget the name of the book. But, in the books, Ingrid, the daughter, she has the ability to see into the future, and Freya is really good with potions. In the show, they say first Ingrid's really good whipping up potions, but then they change it to Freya to be like the book. And Freya, for the most part, not Freya, but Ingrid, for the most part, doesn't really see into the future. But they added a new witch for the show called Wendy, who is the aunt of the two girls, because she's not in the book. And she was only supposed to be in a pilot, but Lifetime liked her so much, they kept her for the rest of the series. And she has the ability to change into a cat. In the show, it's much, much more different. In the show, they deal with reincarnation, and I find the show's premise to be much, much more fascinating than that of the book. So basically, the mother is named Joanna, and the family's name is what is it? Bucamp, I think. And so basically, she has a sister named Wendy. And Joanna is more the serious type person. Wendy is more of the free spirit, wild one, and everything. And Joanna has two daughters, Ingrid and Freya. Freya is more of like, the hopeless romantic, more daring, a bit of a wild one, kind of like Phoebe and everything from Charm. Freya's more like, what's her name? Piper and stuff. She's a bit awkward. She's nerdy. She's cutesy wootsy type thing. And basically, both daughters have no idea that they are witches. And the reason for that is because there's a curse on the family. Every time, like, the girls realize that they have magical powers and stuff, other forces try to get to them, like other witches and stuff like that, who always have like a beef with that of like, the Bew camps and stuff. And so Ingrid and Freya, they never live past their 30th birthday. When one sister dies, the other one dies like a couple of minutes or hours later. That's just part of the curse. Then the mother, Joanna, she becomes pregnant again and re-gives birth back to that of the girls. And this process has been going on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And Joanna is extremely sick and tired of it. She's tired of being like pregnant. She's tired of giving birth, re-loving her daughters, only to see them die and have to bury them again. So she takes it upon herself to not tell them about their powers. And this has been going on for like at least 100 years or so, because of when Ingrid died last. And because it was so tragic, it caused a rift between Joanna and that of Wendy, because Wendy was part of the reason why Ingrid died. And so because of that, Wendy and Joanna just haven't spoken to each other like in 100 years. But like, the thing about the sisters is that when they're reincarnated, they do not remember nothing about their past lives. It's only when they start seeing photographs of themselves back in the old time that they get like suspicious and stuff. Well, eventually, Wendy, being who she is, very impulsive and stuff, tells the girls what they are and all this other stuff. Chaos happens, and there's a big twist that revolves around two guys that Freya is in love with. And then after that, like, because the first season is very fast paced. And because it's very fast paced, they get right to what the show is about, which I love. The problem is that it's so fast paced that you have more exposition told to you than you actually get to see it and everything. So the first episode is just like, they tell you stuff, they tell you stuff, they tell you stuff, and you barely see it. And it's kind of like, ah, man, I want to see it. Also, we get very quick like references to flashbacks of the girls' past lives, and I want it to be longer. Now, there is an episode that is a bit longer that explains why there was a rift after 100 years between Joanna and Wendy and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see the path in which these girls go through, because it's always different every reincarnation. And it's even more interesting to see the behavior patterns and the personal development and growth of both the girls from each different season, because like they kind of like flip-flop a little bit. And also when you get to Killian and that of Dash, their personalities change from season 1 to season 2. Season 2 is a much, much, much more darker show and everything. That's one of the reasons why I like season 2 a bit more than that of season 1, and why I own it on DVD. Basically, at the end of season one, both the brothers realize, hey, they're magically powered as well because their memories have now, and their powers have just been unlocked and everything. And so in season two, we deal with that, and we see one of the brothers start to go down the dark side and everything. Both brothers just can't get along, no matter how many centuries it's been. They can just never, stay like have that brotherly love for like too much longer and stuff. And so also the Ben camps, Wendy and Joanna's father starts to come back, and he's like really, really, really evil and stuff. So it gets like very dark by season two. Sadly, however, season two would be the last season for the show because ratings were starting to fall by at least I think 600 million or something like that, or 6 million. And so Lifetime's just kind of like, whatever, let's get rid of this show. But it's quite a shame because it was such a good show and everything. And it was such a good show that many celebrities tried to get the show renewed, along with fans, with a petition. Channing Tatum, he tried to get the show renewed because at that time he was married to Jenna. They're now divorced. William Shatner tried to get the show renewed. Sarah Michelle Gellar, Holly Marie Combs, and Shannon Doherty all tried to get the show renewed. But as of 2024, still there is nothing. Also, from the pilot to that of the series, a couple of people got recast. Nicholas Gonzalez was originally supposed to play a detective on the show called Matt Toccolini, but he got replaced by Jason George playing Detective Adams, who would go on to have like a romantic love interest with that of Ingrid. And the problem with that I have is that it only lasted for 5 episodes before they killed his character off. And then the actor went on to star in another show, and then another show called Mistresses. And like the problem I have with him only being there for 5 days is that he dies in the 4th episode, but then in the 5th episode, he comes back as a spirit. And the thing is, we didn't really get to see this relationship flourish that much because he barely has any screen time. Basically, it's like both of them have a crush on each other. And then like when the mom is like accused of murder, like it causes her to not like him, then they start dating, and then like that's by like the 3rd episode. But then by the 4th episode, of course, she's all like, oh no, like because I'm cursed and I don't live past 30, and like I did this resurrection spell that's supposed to like kill like a loved one, it's just not good enough for me to date him because I'm afraid he might get hurt or something like that. And then of course the spell she calls to resurrect her aunt. Like, basically it's like this. If a witch resurrects somebody from the dead, then it has to take a life for a life. So it has to take a loved one, but it doesn't tell you who. So originally she thought it was like her friend's baby, because she did a spell for her friend to get like pregnant, but it turned out to be Adam and everything. And so he just died in her arms. And then by the next episode, here he is alive, but it's really just like his ghostly spirit because she brought his soul from like the underworld and stuff. And that's all good and well. And that should be very dramatic and very emotional. But because in the first 3 episodes, he's barely on the show and they kind of rush through their relationship, you don't really feel it, you know what I'm saying? And it should be this big, like, emotional thing. But, since the 2 characters barely had any screen time together, I just wasn't feeling that love connection. If this would have happened in the 10th or like 9th episode, it would have been fine. Because, season 1 is 10 episodes and season 2 is 13. And so I'm just really wishing that we could have spent more time with him, seeing those two be lovey-dovey. Because while that fifth episode was very emotional, because it's basically she's not always going to live forever. So he's just going to wander the world with nobody being able to see him except for like witches and stuff. And he can't even be near his loved ones because his loved ones can't see him. And plus, he'll outlive them because he'll be a spirit on the world. So it's kind of like she had like a day to return him. If not, he's going to be stuck on the earth. And when she opened the portal to the underworld, another ghost came through that has ties with that of Dash and Killian, and then later Freya and stuff. So it's one of those big emotional things I just wish they could have like took more time to like marinate with. And other little similarities like the house looking similar, how Freya works at like a bar and she's like a bartender. Piper worked at a bar, she owned one. A love triangle between one of the sisters and two guys. And it's just like other little like small details that are similar, like Ingrid like falling in love with a guy and he's now a ghost and she doesn't want to say goodbye to him. Piper did that. And just like it's other little teeny tiny details. Now, Melissa was kept on as like a consultant expert because, she wrote the book and she was able to keep them still on course from that of her novel. Jonathan Kaplan, he was an executive producer. And this now explains something. See, I'm about to review a movie called Bad Girls. It was a movie that came out in 1993, something like that. And it's about females from like the Wild Wild West days, right? And originally there was a woman director, but the studio just didn't want to have her no more, so they hired a man to replace her, Jonathan Kaplan. And when she had the movie, it was supposed to be like a feminist take on the Wild West of how they treat women and stuff like that. They brought him in, and the studio wanted a more sexier, action-packed movie. And in the movie, there is a scene where a 17-year-old Drew Barrymore is topless. Now in the theatrical you don't see it, but in the extended DVD you see her boobs and she's only 17 years old. And so when watching the first season, especially that of the first episode, I remember noticing that like the Wendy character is always naked in the pilot and all throughout the first season because she transformed into a cat, and when she does, she doesn't have her clothes. And so like, and you always see like a side naked view of her, and you see the back view, and sometimes you see her butt cheeks and stuff. And so not only that, but also with the Freya character, they even mentioned talking about, ooh, you have big boobs and everything. And they always make an emphasis to like, perk up her breasts more than like usual and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, you see, and it's not like I'm a prude or nothing like that. I don't mind seeing stuff like that. But it has to be like necessary, like the whole nudity thing. Like they could have done like the Hollywood like nudity thing where they like cover up your like naked parts and only show like the back area, which they do in the show. But then they also make a point to always show her on the side view and then that one back view. And it's kind of like, what was really the point? So it does make me wonder if this is his doing because of how like, that Drew Barrymore scene is and stuff. Because it kind of just takes you out of like place when watching the show. Like, okay, we get it. She gets naked and turns into a cat and stuff like that. But then they do it so many times in the first season, and especially the pilot, it just makes you wonder, you know what I'm saying? Because it is supposed to be a show for women. A lot of women don't really care to see that. Maggie Friedman is the one who produced this series. And I think she did a pretty good job with this series, you know what I'm saying? It's just sadly, the first season's a bit rushed. There's a little bit too much explaining, not showing. And the second season was awesome, but it did feel a little bit more geared to like the guys in the show than the females, and the women was just there along for like the ride. Vanessa Madison, she replaced Glennie Hurtley as Penelope and everything. And so I'm really curious to see the unaired, like, pilot from that of the aired pilot and stuff. I want to see how different it was with the different cast and stuff like that. But other than having like a rushed first season that kind of had like mixed reviews and stuff, I did like the overall like narrative of the story. I love the CGI. It was pretty good. And like I love how the witches use their powers here. Like in Charm, they only just have one power and they can just like, do potions and stuff. And here is basically whatever you can think of in your mind, but you have to really concentrate because the daughters are still new to this again, whereas the aunt and the mother can just pretty much like do anything. And I do like how if you use a spell on somebody, it has consequences and stuff, like erasing a person's memory or bringing a person back from like the dead and everything, or using like a love spell on somebody. There's always that downside to magic. Okay, before I go into character profiles for season one, okay, the family's last name is Bouchon. Thankfully, in the second season, they constantly say the last name. I don't know how it spells that. Like, it's literally spelled Baucamp. Well, I don't get it. Anyway. So Joanna Bouchon, and she's played by British actress Julia Ormond. And you can hear her British accent come out even though she's doing like a fake American one. I wish they just would have made her British and just said she came from like the old country or something like that. But it doesn't explain why her sister would have like an American one. Maybe the sister just wanted to adopt one. I wish they would have done that. She is their headstrong matriarch of the family. She is the mother. She is one of the most powerful witches there is. Her sister Wendy says she can pretty much do anything she sets her mind to, and she's just like extremely powerful. Some witches are only good at one thing, but they also have like the basic power set. Levitation, making fire, making it rain, but she apparently can just do anything, and she's very, very, very smart. She loves her girls to death. This is why the whole immortality thing pains her so much. You know what I'm saying? Because her daughters don't live past 30, but this is the first time they've ever lived a little bit longer. And it really breaks her heart to have to see one daughter die and knowing the other one's automatically gonna die a couple of minutes later. So she will literally do anything in her very being to prevent like her daughters from dying. She will harm people. She will kill a person to protect her family and stuff. And it's so heartbreaking because she's gone through this hundreds of thousands of times, watching her daughters die, them watching herself become re-pregnant with them, giving birth to them, and having to re-love them all over again and reteach them everything because they have no memory of their prior life. And every time the girls are reborn, they have a complete different personality. And some of those personalities go against that of what Joanna teaches and stuff. Like 100 years ago, Ingrid started to like hang out with this evil wizard and almost like in like a cult type thing. And when she died, she killed him and stuff. Killing him is what started all these weird things happening in the modern day. And it's also what helped cause that rift between her and her sister. And the thing is, like I said before, she will protect her family at all means. But if they're already dead, she has no use for them and everything, no love for them. Like, okay, there's a person known as the Shifter, a shape shifting witch, and we don't know who it is. In the beginning of like the season, the Shifter turns into Joanna and starts killing people, and this one lady witnessed it and stuff. This causes Joanna to be arrested, and she needs the help of this one wizard who's also kind of like an attorney type person to help prove her innocence and stuff. This leads her to somebody in her past, but the Shifter is still around, but she literally has no idea who it is until the Shifter attacked like Freya. And so, like, it turns out the Shifter is somebody she actually knows. But because, and the reason for this is because of this one wizard named Archibald. He is related to, like, the two brothers and stuff. And so, no, actually, I don't think. And at first, it wasn't revealed he was. It was just like some like dude from the past, who owned their house they live in. But then it's later revealed, that they are related to him. And so, like, he tried to form this cult, and he tried to have Ingrid join, and she joined, and Wendy. He tried to harm Wendy. So Wendy fought back with some kind of energy ball, but Ingrid, loving Archibald and everything, jumped in front of him, and she got hit by the energy blast and fell over the staircase. Because of that, Joanna cut the daughter of Archibald and used that dagger with, like, the blood of like a relative to stab him and kill him. This is, and the little girl turned out to be the Shifter and everything because of Wendy, accidentally killing her daughter. She just had no sympathy and told her sister to get out and never come back. And so she did for 100 years. But then her sister came back when she had a vision that her sister was in danger. For the most part, her and her sister get along, but they don't agree with the method of trying to teach the girls magic. Wendy wants to teach them magic, and then Joanna does not. And so I do like the whole mother bear type thing, to protect her family at all costs. Like when I said before, if you're like a dead relative, she has no use for you living in the world no more. So she is done with you because the Shifter resurrected one of Ingrid's past bodies and everything. Because there are thousands of bodies of the daughters everywhere littered around, like, the town and everything. And so she resurrected the last one to die, the one that hates Wendy the most. And so she sent a dead corpse, a zombie like Ingrid, to get that of like Wendy. And she almost killed Wendy until Joanna came in to save the day. And it was so sad because the moment the zombies saw her, she's all like, "Mother is me," and everything. Like, because she loves her mother to death. It's just Wendy she hates. And she's all like, "You're not my daughter no more. You're dead." And she literally killed her zombie daughter and everything. Like, she didn't even like blink or hesitate to like take her down and stuff because of the simple fact there's already a living Ingrid who's a heck of a lot nicer and stuff. For the most part, we really don't get too much backstory about her, but then things start to get complicated when Wendy goes and finds Victor. He's renamed in the book. But Victor is the father of the two girls. And so they need his help along with Joanna to start back up like Freya's powers. But the thing is, her powers have been stripped of her and everything. And it's kind of like, why don't these two get along? Like, it's never really explained. But she told the girls, basically, your father just left and never came back. But that's not entirely the truth. But she still has, like, feelings for, like, Victor because they slept together and stuff. But then we get a bit more backstory as to where they came from. Wendy and that of Joanna came from Asgard. Now, Asgard plays a big part in the books. Basically, Loki and I think Heimdall or something like that. They're now in like, the real world, and that is who Freya's fighting over, and it turns out to be the brothers and everything. But here's a little bit different to where their father is stuck in Asgard and he's really evil. He used a key that's a golden key in the shape of a snake. And so, like, the shifter wanted it because there's like this ooze that's oozing from Asgard into the real world. Now, that also happens in the book, but it's differently and stuff. And so she's had this key the entire time, but she lied to Wendy. And so when Wendy got bit by the snake and it coiled around her wrist, we literally get to see a pretty cool witch fight between both Joanna and Wendy. I wish it could have been more like sparkly or whatever, like like thunderbolts or lightning bolts or flames of fire, stuff like that. But of course, she didn't want to hurt her sister. But it's nice tossing around and some really interesting things they do, like hiding within the walls and using coats to wrap you around your body and all kind of cool little stuff. And she even literally stabbed her sister in the hand just to get the snake off and stuff. Like when I say Joanna will do whatever it takes, she will do whatever it takes. And then we find out she had a son that's also trapped or whatever in Asgard. But, when the shifter comes and kidnaps her, they have to fight the shifter off and she destroys the shifter. Wendy, who is played by Machen Amick, I hope that's how you say her name. She is kind of like the wild, like, aunt slash sister. She loves men. She's like boy crazy and everything. She's loose with her powers. Like, she's not supposed to interfere in trying to teach the girls how to use magic, but she does anyway because she feels it's their birthright and everything. She's pretty much just like a wild child spirit type person. Now, what's interesting about her is, like I said before, she's not in the books whatsoever. She was only supposed to be in the pilot, but Lifetime liked her so much they kept her. And she really does bring a level of like, fun to like the show. Now, her interesting trait is that she can turn into a cat. Why exactly is never explained in the first season. But, she has the ability to turn into a cat, a little black cat. And every time she does, she gets like naked and stuff. And so, like I said before, in the first season, you're constantly seeing like, her being naked for whatever reason, because, she's turning into a cat. And they try to use any excuse they can just to have her get naked on set to turn into a cat. Because like she has like 9 lives like a cat. And because of that, she wears like this like amulet or like a necklace type thing on her neck that's green. And in the last episode, or the second to last, it turns red. This is indicating she only has a 1 life left. So she can die like however many times and come back alive, but Ingrid had no idea. So when Wendy died and everything, Ingrid found the spell that could resurrect her body. When Wendy came alive, she told Ingrid, you didn't have to do that because I have 9 lives. And like, because of that, magic comes with a price and somebody you love is gonna die. And so that's like her interesting, like, immortality trait that she has that's never really explained in the first season. Now, when her sister is arrested for like murder, she decides she's gonna wipe the mind of that older lady. So she needed like a Pacific type butterfly, and this one man had it. And this is Freddie Prinze Jr., and he had like a recurring role in the first season. But he's only really in like 2 episodes. And it's been a while since I saw that dude on television and stuff. I'm like, oh wow, he has like gray hair now and stuff. And so pretty much she gets along with like, her nieces. It's just her sister she has a bit of a rocky history with because she accidentally killed Ingrid and stuff. Ingrid, played by Rachel Boston. She's my favorite sister in the first season. She's awkward, she's a little shy, she's a little geeky and everything. She's so sweet and innocent. Like I just love the way like the actress portrays her. She reminds me a little bit of Piper. And so she also has like, the more interesting storyline that's not so generic and like a drama and stuff, unlike, Freya. And so the thing about Ingrid is that she is the first one to discover that they're witches. She first discovers something odd when she's in Archibald's house, who's now owned by like, Dash and his mother, and there's like a photo of her and Wendy back in the old times. Well, after she finds out she's a witch, she's the more like, curious one about witchcraft and stuff. Like she wants to know everything there is about it. She wants to learn as many spells as she can. And, of course, her mother doesn't like it, but her aunt, like, loves that and stuff. But it causes Ingrid to constantly screw up. She's constantly doing spells she has no business doing and don't even really know how to use, which is something her aunt gets on to her about, talking about, you need to take your time and learn how to do it, but she's very impulsive. Her friend she works with in the library wants to have like a baby, so she does a spell to get her pregnant. Then I told you how, like, she brought like Wendy back from the dead and it caused like a loved one to die. This is something that's been tolling on her for a while. And so when her friend starts to have cramps, like she's about to miscarriage, she was afraid that, oh no, it's the baby that's gonna die. But the thing is, it's the loved one that has to die, and she doesn't love her friend, and she doesn't love this unborn baby. So, but she thinks is, that's what it is and stuff because she's so unfamiliar with this. And so it turns out that the loved one is actually the cop that she starts to date. But then she breaks up with him because, her mom got arrested and she kind of didn't want nothing to do with him. But then she later on started to date him. And so when he dies from aneurysm and stuff, she brings his soul back from like, the land of the dead and everything. And like I said before, it was heartbreaking when she had to say goodbye to him, but that relationship was so rushed in like 3 episodes that you don't get too much from it. Afterwards, she meets this one man who is curious about witches and all this stuff as she's trying to like deny it. And he's really impulsive. Like his dad searched for like, Asgard, and his dad went mad and he went mad and trying to figure out this thing about witches. And so at first she's kind of intrigued by it, but then she starts to get kind of like, okay, you're pushing your boundaries and everything. You're constantly showing up at my job asking about witches, because in her mind she knows she's not supposed to expose witchcraft and stuff. And it's even to the point where she threatens to use magic like on him and stuff, because she uses magic like a lot. Like this one dude was hitting on her and she had just broken up with her dead boyfriend, and so she uses a spell on him to make him go away. And so it's kind of like you wonder, like, could she ever go down a dark path? Well, we find out that like she did 100 years ago when her former self fell in love with Archibald and stuff, and he was like this cult like leader type person of witches. And so it does make you wonder, could she ever stray down a dark path again, especially with her messing around with magic, not knowing really what it all does. Because she keeps like misusing it and stuff. Because nobody had told her to bring her dead boyfriend back to life. And it was a pretty selfish reason for her to bring him back from like, heaven and everything because, he was at peace, but she couldn't live without him. And so that one dude who keeps wanting her to expose magic and tell him everything she knows about it, he finds out that she is the second key to open up Asgard because the snake key, got destroyed. But it turns out somehow that she is the second key, but they don't explain why in the first season. So he forces her to open up the doorway and everything. As the light is like shining all through, it disintegrates him. And so, like, then the doorway is like open. Adam, played by Jason George. Like I said before, he dated Ingrid. He was a cop. And there isn't much about him we know in his backstory. And like literally nothing. And so he just dates her and then he dies because of the spell backfiring. And then she brings him back to life. But like I said before, this relationship was so rushed. It still felt sad he had to go. I just wish it could have like he could have left towards the end of the series or season. Mike is the obsessed guy about trying to find Asgard. And so basically, like I said before, his dad researched it. His dad went mad and crazy in the head and died. And so Adam decided, to, further his like father's studies and stuff. And then he went crazy holding Ingrid at gunpoint and stuff. And then he lost his life trying to find the gate to Asgard. This was another Rush story that needed time to like season and marinate. And so he should have been like, front and center by at least the second or third episode. Not so much like the fifth. And it's just, it was just one of those Rush things. Harrison Wallace, played by Anthony Lemke. I remember this dude from Queen of Swords. He also replaced the dad in Hulu's The Hardy Boys. And so basically he's like a warlock and he helps Joanna to like, set her free from like this murder charge and stuff. So there's not much about him, but there is a romantic interest between the two. And so we don't ever see him use powers. For some reason, I think he can't. And so after like, she's set free and everything, he just leaves town and never comes back. Victor is the father of Ingrid and that of Freya and the husband to that of Joanna. They lived together in Asgard and he was forced to leave his son when Wendy and Joanna was like banished from Asgard by their father. And so he decided he had enough of seeing his daughters get like resurrected to die again and reincarnated and stuff like that. So he decided to leave. And so like this pisses Ingrid off because he was never there, but it's only Freya that wants something to do with him. And he is the one who explains this whole like, Dash secret that like shocked everybody who watched this show because they didn't see it coming. Freya, played by that of Jenna Dewan. And so this was the time she was married to Channing Tatum. What's his name? Channing Tatum. So her last name was a little different back then. But like her whole story revolves around a love triangle. She's least interested in witchcraft, but is still amazed and shocked by the things she's able to do, like set things on fire and stuff like that. Supposedly she's really good with potions, but we never really see that in the show. And so like she is supposed to marry Killian, like this doctor dude. He's rich, he's successful, and she's madly in love with him. Only problem is, for some bizarre reason, she keeps dreaming of this one guy. So when she was at this party reception at, like, Killian's place, she sees the guy that is in her dreams. It turns out to be Dash. And for some bizarre reason, she decides to cheat on her fiance by kissing Dash. Later on, she finds out Killian and Dash are brothers. So it makes a very awkward love triangle thing between them, because it's like, while she loves Killian and everything, she's constantly hanging around Dash. But she tries her best to distance herself from him, but he keeps bringing himself all around, and even works at the bar she works at. So she just can't get away from him. So she's constantly interacting with him when he, when Ingrid opens up the portal to the underworld. It turns out that Killian's ex-fiance, who's dead because she took her own life, she came back to the land of the living. And so when Freya found this out, it turns out that, Killian's been trying to warn, Freya of his brother, talking about he's always ruining things, and he had an affair with, Killian's ex, and so this causes Freya to get, pissed. So it turns out that Ghost, slept, well, when she was alive, she slept with Dash. Then she took her own life, and so Freya thinks, oh no, could it possibly be a ghost can harm somebody? Because they can control lights and electricity. But it's not Killian she wants, it's Dash. She's in love with him, and she wants him to kill himself. So she causes the power to go crazy, and when he touches the light switch, he gets electrocuted. And so she's also the one who Freya that is, brings Killian and Dash together because they're so rocky. But when he overhears a conversation the two had the conversation that Freya had with somebody that, she cheated by kissing, this causes a bigger rift in that of between the two brothers, to where they start fighting and stuff. The only big thing that comes with her in magic is when she loses her powers to that of the shifter. And after losing her power, she's kind of I really didn't care about magic before, but now that I had magic, it was cool. And now I'm kind of sad I don't have it. They try everything they can to get her powers back, but nothing will work. And so her father is now back in town, and she wants to know everything about him, wants him to come to the wedding, but it causes problem between her and Ingrid, because Ingrid wants nothing to do with him. But then when he sees Dash, he realizes something. He's known Dash for hundreds of years. And he tells Freya that I don't know what it is, but you're destined to be with this dude because you fell in love with him in the past. But this is a big revelation because when we find out who the mother of Dash and the relations to Dash and that of Killian, it turns out she is the shifter. She is the daughter of Archibald and everything. When Joanna slashed her back to kill that of Archibald, nobody knew what happened to the daughter, Athena. And then it turned out that we see this big scar on Penelope's back, indicating she is really Athena, the daughter of Archibald. So this was a big revelation, because it's kind of whoa, she's a witch. And not only that, but Killian and Dash are warlocks too, but where's their powers? How are they reincarnated and stuff like that. So she just wants revenge, period, on that of Wendy, and especially that of Joanna. This is why she frames Joanna. This is why she tries to kill Joanna. And it turns out the reason why her sons don't have powers is because she stole them, similar to how she stole Freya's powers and stuff. So in the big finale and everything, when she goes to like, kill Joanna, her and Wendy put a stop to it and they kill that of Penelope slash Athena, which gives the powers back to Freya and the two brothers. Killian is technically Balder from like the book, from like, Asgard Tales and everything. And him and his brother do not get along because of the Killian. He had an affair with that of his brother's ex, and she later killed herself. Killian is a very brash type person. He's like free spirited, he does what he wants, and he has a huge crush on Freya. He's not quite sure why, but he just does and everything. And it causes a rift between him and his brother. It is later found out that in a past life, him and Freya was actually madly in love and always been in love through the centuries. And he knows how to play music. And so just because he comes from like a rich family doesn't mean he's rich himself, and he's kind of just lives on like a boat and just goes from like one place to another. He's carefree and basically, even though he does things wrong, like cheat with his brother's like lovers and stuff, you can't help but to like him. Dash, who is technically Loki in the Asgard Tales and stuff. He is like technically the trickster, but he's this really responsible, like elegant, like doctor. And when that weird plant thing started to grow down into like I guess like the subway system or something like that, him and his assistant decided to go and investigate, which is weird because like, he's just a doctor. They're not scientists, but whatever. And so, for the most part, like, he loves Freya to death, and he's always sweet and kind and nice to her. But, like I said before, his brother screwed around with his ex. He hates how his brother is like a screw up and always causing problems for that of like the family. But when he finds out that Freya kissed like, Dash and everything, he is so heated he punches his brother, which causes his brother to finally give up and be like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave town and everything. But things get worse when he goes out to confront his brother, and all of a sudden their powers reactivate. And not knowing he has powers and a bit of anger and emotion, his powers unleash and start attacking Dash, causing kind of like, this telekinetic like push and everything. Dash is knocked out, and Killian uses this opportunity to push the boat and make it adrift out in sea. He literally stranded his brother, a brother that, he assumes is dead because his powers that he had no idea he had. He assumed he killed his brother and stuff and decided to get rid of the body by just pushing it out to sea. Holy crap. But then when it comes to second season, it's like, dude, like he went through a complete character shift. Amy is the medical assistant to that of Killian. She later starts to date Dash when Freya wants to get wants to stop liking Dash and needs to put him on to somebody else. But Amy can tell that like there's something going on between that of Freya and Dash, even though Freya says there's absolutely nothing. But eventually these two break up because she realizes there is something, romantically about these two, and she's just not going to come in between of that. However, she meets her demise at the hands of that of Penelope and slash like Athena. So when she goes down into like the sewer system or where it is that liquid metal stuff is oozing from Asgard, she sees Penelope down there and like, Penelope just straight up kills her and everything. So that's everybody's personality from that of season one. By season two, everything gets a heck of a lot crazier because now the doorway to Asgard is open, and now we have to deal with that of like the sister's father, who's the king of Asgard, who banished them, and their son, who they was forced to, or well, Joanna's son, who she was forced to abandon. Season two is much more darker and more ambitious. There's also way more magic going on, and they have a bigger budget to where now they have tons of colorful CGI effects when it comes to that of their magic. The only effect that looks horrible is when Dash uses his little lightning looking powers. The hue on it is way too bright, and it's like lightning effect is the easiest thing to do, and I can't believe they messed that up. But like, there's so much CGI in the second season, even to the point where they CGI Wendy's cat. Like, there are times when it's a real cat, when it's like you see it walking from behind, but that's about it. Every time it's up close and you see its face, it's CGI. It looks real, but you can tell the face is fake because of like the expression on it and stuff. It just looks too animated, but it looks pretty convincing. And we actually now get to see her body transform, and it's really good, like human animal transformation. But why they kept going for the CGI cat, I have no idea. And we get a whole bunch of new characters and a whole bunch of new witches and warlocks and stuff. And it makes you wonder, wow, how many people came through that portal? We also get the family trying to destroy, like, a demon type monster. And the costume is really cool looking. And there's so many twists and turns towards the end, and especially throughout this season, that sadly the show does leave on a huge cliffhanger, multiple ones at that. They're still bringing in characters from like the books and creating their own. However, ratings started to drop, and that's why the show got canceled. It does make me wonder why exactly it got canceled. When you look at the differences between season one and season two, one thing is very noticeable is that there's a green filter now on season two. I guess it to give it a more earthly, like, magical feel, but it is kind of distracting once you go from season one to season two. Also, season one feels okay. In season two, I like how they not only will they explain things, but they'll show it. Because in season one, they just explain stuff constantly, and it's like you have to wrap your head around it really fast. But from season one to season two, season one is, it's more mysterious and also a little bit more simplified, where season two is still mysterious, but you kind of know exactly what's going on. But there's so many twists and turns, maybe people felt it was over too complicated. Also, well, season one felt more like a female centric type show. In season two, the men get more character development and the men are more front centered and stuff. This could piss off a lot of the audience because, this is on Lifetime. This is a female centric type show. And now in the second season, it's more driven towards the men and the male characters. And that probably alienated a lot of the fan base and stuff. But all in all, I do prefer season two a bit more over season one. Not because it relates more to me as a man, but just because of the simple fact of how dark it got, how more engaging the storylines were, how we get a bit more flashbacks of the two girls in their past lives and stuff. And also just the complicated nature of everything. Okay, so Ingrid's two friends that work with her at the library. This is very brief. Basically, we don't know much of nothing about them. Barb is the one who was pregnant in season one and, like, tried to get pregnant. We only see her like twice in the first season, and then she's mentioned like twice in the second, but we never see her, and they never show her again because I guess they felt, oh no, we have too many blacks on the show, we can't have no more. And then when it comes to the guy, he's a Buffy alumni. There are three Buffy alumni in this show, and there's nothing about him. We don't know nothing about this dude. And he's barely in the first season. He's barely in the second season. He dies in the second season because of the Mandragora and everything. The demon monster that the Bruchons have to stop. And it's just like they're both like pointless characters that really don't serve no purpose whatsoever. And I guess they got rid of him because the actor's gay and they can only have two or three gay characters on the show, so they had to like get rid of them. So they just got rid of the two minority characters and stuff. Michelle Hurd plays Alex. Alex, surprisingly, is the ex-lover of Joanna and everything. I was shocked and surprised to see this because nowhere in season one, and after this storyline ends, because it ends very quickly, because they can't have too many blacks or gays on the show, so they had to get rid of her and stuff. And so like it's a very brief storyline. And throughout the rest of the season, you never get the hint that Joanna is like bi and everything. So it just completely comes out of nowhere, especially when you watch her in season one. But anyways, in the 70s, when Joanna was like really upset, her husband hasn't come back yet. And so like she meets this other witch named like, Alex. And Alex is like a fortune teller type person, and she's very headstrong and she knows a lot about magic, and she helps them defeat the Mandragora and everything. But it turns out that she's not gonna stick around because like Joanna is just too afraid to commit, and like it's just a rocky relationship between the two and stuff like that. So she just ups and leaves as soon as she comes in. Like I said before, too many minorities. They just can't keep them on the show. This could have developed into like a really interesting storyline, but sadly, there's nothing that's gonna come of this. Like I think she's literally only in 2 episodes, and that's it. Maybe 3 at the most, but I'm pretty sure just 2. Ronan slash Seamus. So this dude just popped out of nowhere, and it turns out he's Wendy's husband and everything. He's like a famous painter, and he's a warlock, and he's always using her and stuff like that. And this is why she doesn't want to be around him. But then like he pretends that he turned himself around, they mess around, only to find out that he just wants a piece of her hair. See, when they was married, he stole her hair and he magically put it in like all his artwork. And so his artwork is spelled to like, um make everybody love it. When she finds that out, she tells him to stay away from her for like ever. I never understood the point of this storyline and why they added it until Tommy comes in the very end of like the season. Then it makes more sense. Tommy is the love interest of that of Wendy. He's a paramedic. He knows Dash briefly, but it's never really truly explained. And like he has a daughter and he has an ex. At first, him and Wendy couldn't get along because they was both in the library trying to get the same book. And his stubborn personality rubbed her the wrong way, but then eventually she started liking him. This is probably because, like, Freddie Prinze Jr. is no longer in the show after the first season. So now she has a brand new love interest and she really does love him until he sees her. He sees a cat and sees her transform into a human. And so he's freaked out and everything. And when she tells Joanna, Joanna's like, look, you need to wipe his memory clean because nothing good will come from this. He will rat you out, or either he will, like, be in danger. But Wendy does not do it, and their relationship still goes strong until he is killed and his body is used for the vessel of that of Wendy's and Joanna's father. After that, he pretty much just plays the bad guy because, what's his name? Soul is in his body. And so when the father is defeated, of course, Tommy is still dead. And Wendy does something that completely shocked me and everything. And I'll get to that a little bit later when I get into Wendy. Isis and Ivar, they're two low-level, like, shape-shifting witches from Asgard that know Frederick. Frederick is the son of that of Joanna and Victor. And so basically they just want to go home to Asgard and they kidnap Victor and then later Freya to get back to the Asgard. They're also twins and they are also incest. And so, like, because of this, we lose Victor and both of them two lose their lives and stuff. They're like minor characters, but they're there to be antagonists to, like, our main cast. Not so much heroes, but kind of heroes. Victor is in the show briefly in the second season. He still loves Joanna, and they're still together and everything. But like I said, Isis and Ivar, they kidnapped him. They basically torture him and, because they want the key. They have no idea Ingrid is the key. So when they later kidnap that of, like, Freya and stuff, Joanna later comes in to save them after they, like, die and all this other crap. Problem is, they set off some type of, like, bomb type thing, a magical one, that when the sand runs out, it will, like, explode and kill them. Well, if they touch it, it will also, like, explode and stuff. So Victor literally tells Joanna, switch my place with that of Freya's, because Freya's in some type of, like, weird trap type thing in a chair and they can't get her out. And so that's exactly what they do, and he sacrifices himself for that of his daughter and his wife, which leaves Joanna heartbroken. And it sucks we couldn't get more of Victor because we just got introduced to him in the other season and stuff. But it does show that he does love his family even though he abandoned them. Raven, she is Dash's new love interest. She meets him at the bar and she's a very dominating, very headstrong, kinky woman who only wants to, like, bang guys and everything. She doesn't want no relationship. And he tells her, I just found out, like, somebody I love died. And she's all like, well, my brother died. I had some of the best time of my life with this one dude. And that's all she cares about is sex. And so that's all they do for, like, the remainder of the season until it's found out she is a cop. And so, like, she's investigating all these murders from the Mandragora, but then she's also investigating a murder that Dash committed. And he tried to cover up along with Ingrid and stuff. So when they find this black goo substance made of sulfur near like, the dead body and stuff, she finds the same stuff in like um Dash's home. Now, because of that, she has Dash arrested. But when she found this gooey substance, she touched it with her finger and she licked it. And I'm all like, why would she lick that tarry substance for? Now, something happens at the end of the season to Frederick, and we don't know who is by. And I suspect it might be her because she's the only other female character who's like new on the show. And not only that, but like somebody stole Dash's like, journals and like witch books from that of like his from that of his grandfather Archibald and everything. And he accused her of doing it, but she denied doing it. And if it wasn't Ingrid who did it, then who the heck could it have been? Because there was only like, they were like really the only people in the house and she was in the house. So I think it might be her, but I'll get into her a little bit later when I get into Frederick. Mason Turkle, played by James Marsters. So this is another Buffy alumni who used to play Spike. And so once again, he's playing an evil person. He pretends, well, he's a long lost friend of that of Joanna's, and he's a warlock, and he is a telepath, one of the most powerful one there is. This is why it's so hard to kill him, because he can see it coming. And so he's friends with Joanna, but he's actually a mole. He's working for Joanna's father. And he has been ever since he left Asgard with all of them. And so it turns out that he was friends with Victor, and he has a huge, huge, huge crush on Joanna, but there was nothing he could do because she was dating his friend. And so because he's working for like, King Nicholas and everything, Joanna's father, he wants to bring Nicholas back into this world. And he'll do it by any means possible. And since Frederick's not really doing it, he forces Frederick's hand and everything. And he's very dark, he's very evil, and he's very, very skilled. To the point where he finds out that Tommy is a person who does not fear death. And so because of that, he kills Tommy and uses him to place like, Nicholas' soul inside of Tommy. But they need something else to happen. And so because of that, he literally kills Ingrid and Freya at the same time by hanging them. It's very sad and disturbing to see them hung in like, the backyard and stuff. Because he literally tells Frederick after because Frederick tried his best to kill him, but like I said, it's so hard. But he used like a spelled scorpion on him. And he literally tells Frederick, I left you a surprise out in the garden. And so that surprise is his two dead sisters. Joanna is devastated by this and stuff. And it was so heartbreaking to see because, they mute the volume and everything. There's music playing. The two girls are hung. Joanna's like sobbing in Wendy's arms. It was so heartbreaking. But when like, the master comes back and everything, he's pissed that, Tarkov like harmed his granddaughter, so he just punishes him by putting him in solitary confinement. But then he sends him back through time because the Bouchons like literally try to escape like, the patriarch and everything. And so so that's why King Nicholas sent him back through time because the girls went back through time to find like this magical object that could kill King Nicholas because he is super powerful. While back in time, he steals the artifact that's supposed to kill what's his name, and he kidnaps Joanna and starts drugging her with morphine. and telling her how he's always loved her, how he's gonna keep her, and this and that. And that maybe they can kill the king together so he can have like Joanna for himself. Well, he's later trapped back in time, and the time travel rules is this: if you don't return back to your own time period, about 12 days later, you'll die and cease to exist. So, since he's trapped there, that's the only way he will now die. He's worse than Spike ever was and everything. King Nicholas Bruchon, played by a very outspoken British actor. This dude is very outspoken when it comes to politics, and he feels like white actors should be able to play whatever race they want, especially that in like old Shakespeare like plays and stuff like Othello and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, why does every like white person want to play that character? And it gets on my nerves because the reason why so many white actors and actresses like Scarlett Johansson want to play whoever they want, same with Robert Downey Jr. and stuff, is because if they don't get those roles, then those roles are gonna go back to the actual people of color, and they won't get paid for it. And I'm just kind of like, they want to do everything. They want to play white characters. They want to play LGBT characters. They want to play people of color. And it's just like, people of color roles and LGBT roles should go to those like people and stuff. And they just want to play like everything so they can get paid more and stuff. This is why so many like minority actors and actresses of color and sexuality aren't that great at acting because they don't get that many roles and stuff. But anyways, he's like this uber powerful warlock, and he's the king of Asgard, and he is a tyrant. He doesn't even care. He'll kill his family members if need be. He has brainwashed that of his grandson Frederick, and he is the one who actually cursed the Bouchon women and stuff. He cursed Joanna. He cursed that of Wendy twice, making her into a cat and giving her like 9 lives and stuff. And not only that, but he made it to where she cannot have children. And because it's something about when Joanna played with dolls, like, she played with them like she loved them, but not Wendy. So he cursed her to where she would never have no children. And so, like, they also have another sister, apparently, that we find out this season. And she is now the ruler of the underworld and stuff. So he doesn't care what he does to like his children, and he even steals like Ingrid's powers and threatens to kill them and stuff. The man is just like Voldemort in their thing, but he has his soul implanted in that of Frederick. And so when Frederick comes through, all he has to do is find a vessel to put the soul in. He also has like domesticated the Mandragoras and everything. These peaceful demons that now go around doing his bidding. And so like his whole purpose apparently this season is to steal the magic of the Bouchon women. Magic he felt he gave them and stuff. And that's really his big sinister plan. And so I guess he can rule over Earth and everything like that. So somehow, I'm still not sure how, the Bouchon women are able to defeat him with ease towards the end of the season. First, like I said, Joanna tried to get this one device, but it got destroyed back in the old days. But because they're all like gifted with his power, one's like the bridge, one's the door, one's the key, one's something else, and they just put their hands out and they start saying their chants, and somehow he is destroyed. I don't know how. It feels like a rushed ending with them trying to get rid of him, but either way, he's gone. Eva slash that of Selena. So Eva is a Dominican witch played by Bianca Lawson. And this is the third Buffy alumni. And Bianca is not Dominican. If anything, she's black. Like, both her parents are black, but like her mom is like Creole and Italian and other stuff. So she's like, she has a little bit of Italian Creole in her. That's come from like her light skin complexion. But for the most part, she is like, black. But they have her playing, she's also something else, but I can't remember what it is. But they have her playing Dominican. So they have her speaking a lot of Spanish and stuff like that. Because Dominican women are Spanish with black in them. They're Latinos with black in them, I guess I should say. Because people get offended if you say Spanish because, Spaniards and, all that. So anyway, so she's like black Latina. And so like, her storyline is very, very interesting. And it goes all throughout this second season. But it feels kind of almost... See, it's there to cause confliction between that of Killian and that of Freya. And it does. The only problem I have with this storyline is that they made it seem to be way worse than what it is. They made it seem like Eva was like villainous and everything. And she's kind of not. She's more like sympathetic, desperate and stuff. Because like when Wendy and Freya were doing the tarot reading cards to find out, about like Killian and stuff, they find out that there's some type of owl near him and that's like bad. So, and it turns out she has an owl tattoo. So you think, oh no, she's like villainous and stuff. And her and Killian are married because she found him washed up on shore and she let him know that, hey, I'm a witch and everything. But then it's like he keeps like having feelings for Freya only to not and completely distance himself from her because he's under a spell. And we see Eva spell him constantly and tell her daughter, who she's pretending is her grandmother, that he's building up a resistance and she needs more like potion and this and that. And she has to get pregnant before that of her daughter dies, Alma and everything. And so you think Alma is like the grandmother, but she's actually a daughter. So it's kind of like, what the heck is going on? And then one time Killian wakes up from a nap and he gets like a message on his cell phone. And the message is from him, a video message, telling him to get far away from Eva as possible. Like, she's like a horrible person and you don't love her and you love Freya. And the message was very frantic. So you think, oh crap, what the heck is she gonna do to him? You know what I'm saying? But like I said before, she's actually a sympathetic character. So it turns out that she was born many, many, many years ago and she's actually just human. She met a warlock, who I guess she fell in love with, and he made her into a witch so she can live forever and ever and ever. Her real appearance is that of an old hag. And so, like, in order for her to stay immortal, she has to have a child by that of a warlock. And when her child, like, she has to have a new child before her old child dies. So she's not evil in no sense, other than she will spell and brainwash a warlock male in order to get pregnant by him. And so like when Alma dies and everything, it's too late and there's no way she can be immortal again. So she dies in the arms of Killian when Freya is there. And, it's kind of heartbreaking, but I just wish there could have been more to this story. And I wish she could have been actually evil. And once again, Brianna just dies in another television show. First Buffy, then Pretty Little Liars, and now this. But then all of a sudden, When Killian finds out that Freya is dead, he sees this type of object in his home and he breaks it only for it to be restored. So he doesn't understand what the heck is happening. So he looks at the bottom of it and it has an address on it. So he goes to that address and he finds a brujo, a Hispanic type, like warlock type person, right? And so there he finds Selena, and Selena looks just like Eva. It turns out that Selena is the great granddaughter of that of Eva. Why she looks like Eva, I have no idea. How is she immortal and everything? I have no idea because, like, Alma is a 90-year-old woman. It's never explained and it's kind of rushed. And they give Killian, like, this potion that will have him reunite with Freya. So it basically kills him and stuff. Frederick. So he is the brother to that of Ingrid and that of Freya, but he's Freya's twin brother and stuff. So he was mentioned last season, and he's the one who came through the portal once the portal to Asgard was open and stuff. And so it's been weeks since the portal's been open and closed, and then he just shows up on the doorstep of that of Joanna's and stuff. Joanna's happy to see him, but Wendy is not, and that's because of what he did when they was in Asgard. As the family was fleeing with that Victor and stuff, he decides to double cross them and like stay behind to be with like his grandfather. And so him and Wendy have a like really rough, rocky relationship all this season. But he's trying to prove to them that hey, he's not evil, even though he's been living in Asgard for over 400 years and been hanging out with the grandfather and stuff. But it turns out he is that, in fact, like, a mole and stuff. Him and Freya have a pretty good relationship until she realizes she just can't really trust him no more. And him and Joanna, they had a good relationship until she found out she can't trust him anymore because the grandfather's soul is within his body. And so, like, all season, he just keeps trying to prove that, hey, you can trust me, but seriously, they can't. Because even when the grandfather is resurrected and stuff, he still sides with that of the grandfather, believing in everything Nicholas says and stuff. And it's kind of like you want to like this character, but you kind of can't because he's so brainwashed and everything. But when it came time to him to like try to find like a vessel, he found that of his girlfriend, but he just couldn't go through with it, even though he cut her stomach up and everything. But he healed it, and he just couldn't kill her. He's not that bad of a character. He hates Killian, but we still don't know exactly why. He said that something Killian did when they was in Asgard, and this is the reason why he is the way he is, because of Killian, and why he sided with like the grandfather and stuff. But since the show got canceled, we'll never find out what it is. Now, he did have like a rocky relationship with Mason and everything, and he's constantly trying to kill that dude, but to no prevail. He does love his family, and he did help defeat like the grandfather by extracting the memories of like Dash when Dash read like the journal and stuff. Because there's a way to kill like somebody who's like an uber like witch or warlock and stuff. So it's one of those like gray area type characters where it's like he's good, but he's on the side of evil. When it came time to defeat the grandfather, the women told him just to stay there, just because they can't fully trust him. But then towards the end of the season, in the last episode, somebody murdered Frederick and wrote in his blood like death to all witches and stuff. And there was like a dagger on the floor. We don't know who this is, but we see the person walk away and they're wearing women's shoes and everything, like boots. It's never been explained who it is. The showrunner hasn't explained who it is, but I suspect that it's probably Raven. I don't think it's Selena because Selena apparently is immortal thanks to witches and warlocks, so she will need them. But, if it's not Raven, then it must be his girlfriend. And I think it might be Raven only because she was in Dash's house a lot. She went snooping around. She's the one who found the sulfur in like his place that linked him to that murder. She licked it with her fingers of all things. And like, she could have been the one who stole like the grimoire and like, the journal and stuff. And so maybe she suspects with all these murders, with like the branding of the Mandragora on like people's chests and everything, maybe it has something to do with like witches and stuff. Because there are some humans that was explained in season 1 who suspect that witchcraft in Asgard are real, and they've tried to find it, like Mike did. So I think it's her and everything. And if it's not her, then it could be the girlfriend. I mean, he did try to kill her and everything, but she doesn't know what happened because she was blindfolded and she had numbing cream on her. But he healed up her scars from when he cut her stomach open and stuff. But I don't really think it's her. And she was kind of big, and she was never at Killian's place or in Dash's place. So how would she know where that's at? Killian. So when Dash left him for dead and he drifted out at sea, it was Eva who found him because she sensed that of a warlock and transported him to where she was at. Like I said before, she spelled him and married him just so she can get pregnant. And so his whole storyline is just that, he's torn between Eva and that of Freya. He wants to be with Freya, and it turns out that him and Freya, like I said before, are always falling in love with each other throughout the years. And because apparently they're star-crossed lovers and everything. They will never be together. And so he forgives his brother and everything. Because he doesn't remember what all happened. But he forgives his brother. And they talk about being warlocks and they try to use their magic and they do a spell that goes wrong that almost kills him and stuff. But then at one point him and his brother get extremely pissed off at each other because I think later on he finds out his brother tried to kill him. And so they have a huge magic battle, which we get to see some of it, but we don't get to see the rest because it would have cost too much money. Just say that like their place get completely trashed in the attic. It like a bomb went off or something like that. And so when he finds out that Freya is dead, he's heartbroken and all this other stuff. And that's when he goes and finds like those like Latino witches and warlocks. And he uses like a potion to kill himself. But he doesn't realize that Freya is still alive. And so, while in this dreamlike state, as he's dying, Freya comes to him and gives him this giant red flower that looks like a red sunflower. And Ingrid knows exactly what that means, and she's able to slow down like the poison and stuff like that until he just eventually dies. And with true love's kiss, Freya is able to bring him back from the dead. But it's what Dash does to him later on that is completely shocking. He doesn't really have no true storyline other than the fact that it's just a love triangle once again. And it turns out that in another life, he was Edgar Allan Poe, and he looks just like him. But here's the weird thing: we know about the reincarnation of like the girls, but it's never explained with Dash and Killian. We've seen them in flashbacks and stuff, and it's never explained how they're reincarnated. Are they cursed? No, it's just simple reincarnation. Apparently, when they die, their soul goes into like whatever new body is born or stuff. And it's a little confusing because like when we see Edgar, like Wendy's all like, yeah, that's Egan Allen Poe and everything. And Freya's like, no, it's Killian. And she's all like, I don't see it. And so she's like, oh, because you did that spell, you're able to see whoever Killian's soul goes into. But this doesn't explain how Victor was able to tell as well. Because Victor literally tells Freya every time you fall in love with somebody, it's always this guy. And it's weird because there are some things that are just never explained. Like I said before in season one, nobody knew that him and his brother were warlocks and everything, even though they came from Asgard. But when they came from Asgard, see, that's another thing. When they came from Asgard, they knew they was like fully adults and everything, and they knew like who Frederick was and stuff. That's why Frederick hates him. But then I guess their mom came, their mom came from Asgard too. Don't know who their father is. But remember, we saw a young like Athena slash Penelope in a flashback. And I guess she got reincarnated. This is so confusing. I wish they would have explained it so much better than what they did and stuff, because it's really complicated. All they had to say is that they die and be reborn and look exactly the same. Joanna is going through an emotional roller coaster this season because she's always having her heart broken because people she loves is either dying, leaving her, or trying to kill her. So she's still trying to keep it all together when it comes to that of the family. But with the arrival of her son now, she's overwhelmed, but she's also weary a little bit. And it's even to the point where she can't always trust him. Then, of course, Victor died and it broke her heart, only for her ex-lover Alex to come back. And they kind of start to restart up their thing until, Joanna pushes her out and stuff like that. They just can't get along with each other long enough to stay together. But like I said before, Alex was there for her in the 70s when Alex would not come back. Then in like the 17 or 1800s, in the when they travel back through time, we see a broken Joanna who's always like shooting up morphine and everything just to like numb the pain of not having Victor. And it's kind of sad to see her like that, that she's so much in love with the man she can't be with, that she's willing to get high and everything. But then, she was forced to kill Freya because Freya got like possessed by like a spirit. And so like, then, of course, there's the whole thing with Mason and him, like, wanting to be with her, forcing kissing on her, drugging her and everything. Somebody who she thought was a friend who turned out to be evil, just like her father. And then, of course, there is her father who wants her dead because he knows she's going to do everything in her power to stop him. So she literally flees back to like the old times of like the 18 or 1700s with her sister and one of her daughters because Ingrid decides she's gonna stay behind and be with granddad and everything. And so like she goes to find this magical device only to have Mason like steal it for her to steal it back, only for him to destroy it. So it's just like she's going through all of this plus seeing her daughters being hung, and she literally tries to kill herself in the bathtub only for Wendy to save her and stuff. it's like there's so much going on with her emotionally that you understand why she would try to off herself or why she would try to drug herself, because she's been going through this for like centuries and stuff, of constantly seeing her daughters die only to become pregnant again and have them come back. And the way they come back, because she doesn't get pregnant this season when they die. Wendy, because Mason forced their hand, Wendy told, Frederick, all right, let's bring like my father back, because he's the only one who can bring them back from the dead with no consequences and stuff. So Wendy is a tad bit different this season. She doesn't turn into a cat that much this season, and as a result, she's no longer naked running around like, the screen and stuff. And so the cat, like I said before, is CGI. She doesn't trust Frederick whatsoever, and she falls in love with Tommy. She's still there to help the girls out and everything, but she's assisting them less with magic. And we find out about her ex-husband. And so I thought that storyline was weird until the whole Tommy thing came around this season. And so when it comes to that of Tommy, she has only one life left to live. And so she's been, holding on to it for as long as she can. She hates her father and everything, and she helps destroy him. And it turns out that her father hates her the most out of her other two sisters. And it's because of him she's cursed as being a cat, and she has 9 lives, and she can't have no children. Well, because she was so in love with Tommy, and she really did fall in love with him, something she never, because this is the reason why in season 1 she was always messing around with men, because she never wanted to fall in love again, but she found herself falling in love with a mortal. So she used her last life to give it to him. She dies and he lives. And when she wakes up, she's in the fiery underworld and everything. And a voice calls out to her. And that voice is her sister, Helena. And in the book, her sister's named something differently. But no matter what, she is the ruler of the underground who's supposed to punish everyone that comes there. Similar to that of like, every type of underworld and every type of religion. And we don't see what Helena looks like because her face is scratched out in the book. And she's voiced by an unknown actress and stuff. And the showrunner has revealed that yes, Helena is the gatherer that was mentioned in the previous episode. So, it would have been great to see what would have happened if, like, we would have got a third season. And once again, Wendy is a made-up character, but she fits so nicely in the show. I still feel bad for saying this, but the show, from what I read of the synopsis of the books, the show is a million times better than that of the book. Freya. So this season is the reverse of what happened to Ingrid. Now it's Freya trying to figure out everything about her past and stuff. And once again, she's in that love triangle of Eva, Killian, and of course herself. She finds out she has like a twin brother, and she's overwhelmed and everything, and like, so she's still going through the motions of all that. But she is in love with that of Killian. She feels that they should just be together because of what her father said. But, Wendy tells her, you're star-crossed lovers. Y'all will never be together. Y'all are literally Romeo and Juliet. But she refuses to, believe that. And even when Killian starts to come around and fall in love with her, and they do it and everything, next thing you know, he's just kind of like, I don't want to be with you. I'm married to Eva and stuff like that. She doesn't realize he's, spelled. And we finally get to see some flashbacks for her past life. One time she's I forget what, I think it's like the 70s or something, like a disco type era. And so in this version now, she's like a dancer, and we get to see her dancing skills because Jenna was first a dancer before she became an actress, and she is very good at dancing. And so in this version, Killian's like a person who plays like piano and is in love with her, but she's involved with like this pimp that runs like the bar and sells drugs and constantly gets her high. He has her use her gifts of making potions into enhancing the drugs, and she's in an abusive relationship with him. This person is Dash, but he's not called Dash because it's all the whole reincarnated type stuff and everything like that. Then we get to see her in another flashback in the 17 or 1800s where like she's kind of like one of those dancing type women that do kind of like the burlesque and everything at a tavern, and so she's in love with Edgar Allan Poe, and he wants to do like a seance, and the spirit goes inside her body and uses her magic to do evil things. This causes her mom to have to kill her. Ingrid's all like, I don't want this to happen, but we have to do it to save like Freya and stuff. And it's okay because once she dies, I'll die a couple of hours later and then we'll be reborn in you. At first, the mom is hesitant, but then she does it with the device. It sucks the evil spirit out and then it leaves the body dead. And so this is the device that present day Joanna wants, and she travels back in time to get it. And so it's nice that finally has some flashbacks for her and stuff. And it's really cool to see the present day Freya back in the 1800s freaking out, scared of dying and everything, not going back to her right time. Other than that, she's just involved in another love triangle type thing, and she's the one who brings Killian back to life with the power of love through like a kiss. I guess there's no consequences because normally there is when you bring a person back from the dead, but there doesn't seem to be one with her yet because the show got canceled. Ingrid this season, my God, they really put her through like the ringer and everything. So, like, she's no longer trying to find out about her past, but she's very gifted in doing spells this season. She mostly hangs out with that of Dash because once she finds out he's a warlock and he's always needing help, she's always assisting him in trying to fix his mistakes. Those two spend so much time together that they both eventually have feelings for each other and do it. And it's like, what are you doing? That's your sister's ex. And he got mad at his brother for messing around with his women, and now he's messing around with his ex's sister. I can't believe they tried to put those two in like a relationship and stuff. It's kind of like, what were the writers thinking? But on top of that, she's messing around with the Mandragora and everything. And because it turns out that a Mandragora gets more powerful when it feeds on love by doing it. And it has to pick a mate. Some reason it picked her, 'cause I guess she's the one who opened the portal. So it was drawn to her. She has no idea she's clickety clacking in this thing. And she's always waking up in like the forest with scratches on her back and everything like that. And the forest this season is completely like, they made it themselves. And I kind of like it. They did a really good job, but you can tell it's fake. So, like, she's constantly sleeping with the Mandragora, and while she's assisting that of Dash. And the Mandragora can, like, take over her mind to where she will defend it by attacking other people. The only way to get rid of it, because there's no way to kill a Mandragora unless you kill its, like, lover. But they can't kill Ingrid and everything. So Alex comes up with a potion and say you have to stick it in their like ear to hit their brain or something like that, and then inject it. So that's what they do. they stab her in the ear and everything. She's fixed. And eventually the Mandragora like dies and everything. And so, like, but I still can't believe this whole relationship with that Dash. But she even helps him cover up a murder. See, there was this guy who was blackmailing him, and he had a gun. He pointed it towards like Ingrid, and Dash killed him. So she literally helps him cover the body up by wrapping it up, throwing it over into like the ocean, and then using like this type of like spell to put like this thing inside water, and as long as it stays in there, the body will stay down there. And I can't believe she helped him cover up a murder. But then it turns out that when she was on his computer, he just happens to have the blackmail stuff on his computer. The videos of him like killing or trying to kill Killian, and him being blackmailed by the dude he killed. She's outraged, she's furious and everything, and she doesn't want nothing to do with him. Plus, after she sleeps with him, the next day she goes to his place and he's sleeping with another woman. And no matter what, she keeps taking him back. When he cheats on her, she takes him back. When she finds out that he was being blackmailed for trying to kill folks and then later killed that dude and killed that dude's father, she takes him back. I don't understand why she's acting so stupid. Her past self did this, but she's supposed to be completely different from her past self. And so in a big shocking turn of events, she pulls a move that her brother did. She betrays the family to stay with the grandfather. But it turns out she only did that to find out a way to kill him and everything. And so when the grandfather finds that out, he steals her powers. But then in another shocking turn of events, the grandfather is all like, I can tell you're pregnant. And so everybody automatically assumes it's Dash's baby because that's only who she's been sleeping with. But then they do another flashback to show, oh yeah, she's been sleeping with the Mandragora also. So she has no idea who her baby daddy is. Is it Dash or is it some type of demon type thing? And it just ends like that. We'll never know. And she never told nobody she's pregnant. I can't believe, because she was so sweet and innocent in the first season. But now she's doing all this dumb stuff in the second season. Dash. Oh my God, this dude is so evil. Now I see why he's Loki in the books. And he's just as evil in the books as he is in the show. You don't know whether you want to hate him one minute, like him the next minute, feel sorry for him the next, hate him again, then feel sorry for him, because they just constantly keep going back and forth with this guy. So at first he discovered, he had powers at the end of season 1, and he tried to kill his brother with his magical powers that just came out his body. And then he, his brother was in a boat and he just made him go adrift. And somebody saw that, recorded it, and started blackmailing him for money. Once he found out who blackmailed him, he killed this dude. And he killed them, when the dude tried to shoot like Ingrid. So they get rid of the body, thrown it over a cliff and into the water. And so after that, we know he's evil for what he's did, but then you kind of feel a little bad for him. And so he spends the entire season trying to find out as much as he can on how to use spells and using magic. He's really eager about using magic. And so, like, even when Ingrid tells him don't read your grandfather's journal or diary or the spell book and everything, he does it anyway, off screen. When Killian shows back up, he's kind of shocked and confused, and but Killian just embraces him because he doesn't remember what happened. And so they start using magic, but then he almost kills Killian again because the spell backfired. And so they had to use Ingrid help to bring him back from the dead or whatever. Then he uses his magic on like a boy who has cancer and died from it to bring him back to life. And Ingrid told him, "You can't do that because I did that and it screwed up everything and I lost somebody I love. You have to." But then it turns out he used a different spell than she did. His fingers are turning black because the death is now going inside his body. So she tells him, "You have to put the death back into the boy and kill the boy." He's about to do it, but then he doesn't want to do it, you know. And so he gets the brilliant idea of, hey, this criminal who killed somebody just came into the hospital. I'll just put the death in his body and everything. So the boy gets to live, and you think, oh wow, Dash is actually a good person until he's not again. And so he starts to fall in love with Ingrid of all people, which completely negates him being pissed at his brother for stealing Freya from him and stealing his ex-girlfriend and stuff. And it's like, I get why, because this relationship was actually built up way better than her and Adam. And so, like, yeah, he's in love with her. He bangs her, and then he bangs another woman the next episode, and it breaks her heart. So he's really a scummy type person. So then, when Ingrid finds out that he tried to kill, Dad, no, Killian and everything, she tells him, "You need to tell him the truth." Eventually, he does, or something like that. Something happens with them two fight each other magically and literally destroys the entire room. They never find out who killed their mother. They don't know it's the Bouchon women and stuff. They just assume their mom just offed herself and everything. And then, so when Ingrid finds out about what he did to, Killian and stuff, she doesn't want nothing to do with him. So he calls her so many times, and he gets very frustrated, like an obsessed, stalkery type, ex and everything. And so then it's kind of like, oh my God, he's going back to being bad again. Until he meets that cop woman, Raven, who just wants to bang him. So now he bangs her in a very aggressive kind of manner, because that's the way she likes it. But when him and Killian destroyed that room, the jar with that talisman got loose. So the dead body they covered, they threw in the water, floated back up. So he's suspected of murder and stuff. And so, oh, I forgot to mention, every time he sees Freya, he gives her the death look and talking about, "I hate you, I don't want nothing to do with you," and blah, 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 and stuff like that. So it's like, what is he? Is he mean? Is he evil? Is he sympathetic? They keep going back and forth with him until he's finally arrested for the murder of that guy. Because remember that guy who blackmailed him? He also murdered that dude's father. The father was going to have him investigated. And so he used his power to kill him and just lied and said it was a heart attack. And so, when he's arrested, he's put in jail, and his brother comes to visit him. And his brother wants nothing to do with him no more and stuff. But then, in a shocking turn of events, he pulls a Loki move. He grabs his brother's hands and he switches consciousness with that of his brother. So he's gonna leave his brother to rot in jail for murder, talking about, I don't want to get one of us has to take the fall for this, and it's not gonna be me. And he's all you can't be me, and I can't believe you did this. And he's all like, "Hey, look, man, I get to be free, you get to rot in jail, and you know what? Since you and Freya are now an item, I get to have Freya again." He's completely done with Ingrid. And when he leaves what's it called, the jailhouse or whatever, the police station, He goes and sees Freya because she's waiting outside, and he just starts making out with her. And it's like, oh my God, this dude is like so evil and everything. He goes around killing people with his magic. He uses and manipulates people. He becomes like crazed and stalkerish and everything. And then he left his brother to rot in jail for his murder and stuff. The dude is like so villainous. And it makes you wonder if they would have got a third season, what would he have done next? And so, yeah, it sucks this show had to end on so many cliffhangers. They was desperate for that season 3 once those ratings started to decline and everything. But Lifetime just pulled the plug on this show. And not to mention, Freya and Ingrid finally get to live past their 30th birthday and everything. So that's cool and everything. But this was a really different type of witch type show, which I appreciate a lot. I really hate if this would have been just like Charmed, even though it's very similar to Charmed and everything. And in my opinion, this is how the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina should have been. Oh my God, I hated that show. But with the support of fans and celebrities, Lifetime just would not renew this show. And now it's been so many years, I doubt this show will ever come back. However, we're in that reboot nostalgia age. Maybe one day it'll get rebooted. Maybe one day it'll get a revival. Who knows? Maybe if more fans will sign the petition, something might happen and everything. And the actress who plays Wendy, she actually posted a picture from the show and everything after so many years because none of the stars ever really talk about the show. And, even she's kind of hoping, something will come of this and stuff. Because it really was a really good, fascinating show about witches. Yeah, the first season just did more explaining than showing. And it kind of rushed through a lot of stuff and you had to take it all in really quickly. But the second season actually took its time and actually gave us a more complex story arc and everything. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. Bye.